Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, hi everybody. This is Jennifer O'Neill, and we have my co-host here, Debbie Friedrich. Hello, Debbie.
Hello. Hi.
And did you notice it wasn't voice activated today? Apparently, Blog Talk can go on its own. It just
That's right.
It waits for me. So we decided to do a show today on what to do when you're surrounded with negative people, or what to do with negative people in your life. And the reason that we decided to do that is because I have been getting a lot of questions, and I think that Debbie's actually run into some questions of her own with the negative stuff. And what happens is when people start finding themselves and really wanting to change their vibration, shift their vibration, and move forward in a positive journey, move forward spiritually, move forward in a positive direction, really be active in changing their lives. What happens is they start to do, one of their first steps is they start to shed their old negative behavior, which would be, because that's what you really have to do. If you're going to start on a spiritual journey, in case you're at the beginning stages of this, one of the first parts that you're going to have to do as you move forward in a positive lifestyle, in a more spiritual, finding the more spiritual side of yourself, getting more of a spiritual balance, is shifting your perspective, understanding any negative thoughts, any negative perspectives that you have in your life, and learning how to shed those, and really moving forward with trust and more of a positive outlook. So many people begin to do that. And I've had questions over and over again. I've had emails on, okay, so I've made this shift. I've made this change in my life. I'm moving forward in a positive direction. And I don't feel like I'm moving forward, or I don't know what to do, because when I come home, my husband or my wife is still stuck in this very negative mindset. This whole, life is horrible, life is crappy, nothing's going to get better, everything's just always happens to me. They get stuck in that mindset, and it could be friends or family or even your work environment. And so they've asked me, how do you deal with this? How do you keep moving forward in a positive direction and not be affected? Hey, you've known people that have like this yourself, I assume, Debbie, too, right? We've talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so a couple of different things. I've come up with like a list of things that can help you work through this when you're on a new spiritual journey. But one of the things that people really need to understand is 70, I would say, and I'm being conservative on this number, 70% of the world or the population is really struggling with a low vibration. Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat from the allergies. They're really struggling from a low vibration. They're really struggling to keep a positive mindset. So what's that mean to you? Basically, it means that 70% of the people in your life are going to most likely, friends, family, people that you work with, are most likely going to have a negative attitude. So don't go try to change everybody's attitude, because you will just be exhausted and give up before the day's end, I swear to God. Because this negative mindset that people have adapted, it's not just a negative mindset and perspective per se, it is actually their vibration. And so their vibration is staying really low, and you have no effect on that. So you cannot change their own vibration. You cannot change their happiness level. They have to figure it out themselves and change it within themselves. You can work all day long trying to fix it for them or help them or get them to see a better perspective, and it's just going to be exhausting and emotionally draining. It doesn't work. I mean, yes, you can toss them a book. Yes, you can give them your outlook on life when they ask or what have you, but don't drain yourself and wear yourself out on your new spiritual journey, on your new high vibration journey, positive outlook. Don't drain yourself trying to pull those people up with you, because you will be fighting them most of the time. Even if they say, oh yeah, I want to learn how to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. If they're not doing it on their own, you can't pull them along with you, because what happens is they become dead weight. And then they start wanting to latch onto you, and kind of be that weight because they want to move along, but they don't want to do the work themselves. It's really, really frustrating. So number one is you need to really just understand that you're kind of on this journey alone to start with, and you need to be okay and accepting of everybody else choosing to stay in that mindset. You really, really do. You have to let that not affect you and really accept that that's their choice. Don't go against it going, why in the world would you make that choice? Why would you be negative? Why would you be unhappy? Why would you choose all these things that amounts to your unhappiness? Don't try to justify that. You don't have time to bring them onto your journey. This is an individual journey, and so you only pay attention to your vibration and your happiness. You allow them to be happy if they choose. You allow them to be unhappy if you choose. But you don't get all mixed up in trying to switch that. Do you know what I mean, Debbie? Like a lot of people, when they're on, and you've been on this new journey, you have friends that are on this journey. Do you ever notice, though, that you or your friends or people that you see, that you're almost compelled to wanting to pull people up with you, but there's always resistance there? Yeah?
Sometimes. And as you were talking, I was thinking, I don't think people think that they're being negative also.
No. You're very right. They really don't. They're not there yet. They're like not at that place in their life yet. They're a few steps not behind you, I don't want to say, because I don't want to say one person's better than another. They're just in a different place. You're exactly right. A lot of times those people do not think that they're being negative. So again, if they don't think they're being negative, that's really hard to get them to shift their mindset because they're thinking they're fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that you want to do is you really want to learn to bubble yourself. What does that mean? Well, it means a lot of different things. It means you need to get a thick skin, not necessarily a thick skin. I call it a bubble. I don't like the thick skin. But you really need to learn to bubble yourself and not take things personally. And so when you're moving forward in a new positive journey, what's going to happen is, and this is something that I've talked about with you. I don't think we're on the radio. But what happens is when you move forward, your vibration begins to rise. And this is something that I really want to explain to everybody so that they kind of get what happens here. When you move in a positive direction, spiritual direction, your vibration will begin to rise, and it will stay consistently higher than it probably was when you were having a hard time and life was just really a lot harder. Your vibration at that point was probably a lot lower. So as you make a commitment to moving forward, your vibration then hangs out at a higher level. Well, what people don't realize in their life is they tend to be around people who match their vibration all the time. Mm-hmm. The people who get along really well, the people who draw into your life, your circle of friends, even at your work, husband, family members that you hang out with, because let's face it, you don't usually hang out with all your family members. You usually gravitate towards certain ones, right? And so the people that you consistently talk with and deal with in your life are almost always drawn into your life because at one point they matched your vibration. What happens, though, is if you start going on a new journey and making yourself move in a positive direction, a lot of times when your vibration begins to raise, you no longer match these people who are in your life's vibration. And the weird thing about that, which people really need to pay attention to, is when you raise your vibration to happiness or positivity or start moving that direction, the weird thing that happens is you don't just separate vibrationally. Let's just say let's just use a scale of 1 to 10. Say that 10's the highest, 1's the lowest, and let's say you're vibrating at a 2, where your friends and family are maybe 2, 3, where they're kind of not doing really good, and you begin to raise your vibration to around a 5 or 6 because you want to stay positive and change things in your life. What happens is when you begin to raise your vibration, the weird thing, positive will amplify negative. And you really need to get that. Positive will amplify negative. And so what that means is when you begin to become more positive, the people around you that have negative thoughts and negative feelings, that feeling that they have inside themselves and their soul and their chest that they don't acknowledge, they just think that they're sad or unhappy, that feeling that they have that's that low vibration, the negativity, it will magnify when they're around you. So
and why is that?
Because it actually happens energetically. It really happens energetically with that positive, negative energy type thing. The more positive that you have, the more negative tries to amplify. And it's really because this really comes down to something kind of strange, actually, which is there's always a good versus evil in the world energetically in the spiritual realm. You can believe it or not believe it. I used to try to not believe it earlier on in my years of being a psychic. I realized that that's not true. There's very much positive and negative energy and spirits and things in the world. There's a balance. Mm-hmm. And so when positive starts to raise, when the vibration, the positivity vibration starts to raise, negative will amplify to try to keep the positive down. So it will naturally try to, I want to say, mute the positive. It will naturally try to keep balance over the positive. So even for instance, when I write my books, when I begin to write and I'm starting to feel really good about it and I'm really writing a lot of positive things, I'm excited about teaching people stuff, negative spirits or people will draw into my life every single time to try to bring that feeling I have down, to try to balance that out so that I either stop writing or it's really weird. I notice it all the time. But anyways, I'm so aware of it that I just kind of brush it off and it doesn't affect me. But anyways, so when you raise your vibration to a positive, and your positive energy really flows, the negative energy is going to try to trump that or minimize your vibration. And so what happens is it amplifies in another person, and they can feel it, and it's very uncomfortable to them. And they don't know why. They don't know what it is. They just know that you're making them feel uncomfortable, and they want you not to be that way anymore. And so they'll start to make jabs at you. They'll say, like, I'm going to use something very extreme, but you look fat, or you did a horrible job on that, or what are you so happy about, or I don't know why you're being that way, things never work out, and, don't get your hopes up. They'll make jabs at you, they'll make comments at you, because that's really the only way that people know how to do that. And, of course, unless they're being physically abusive, which that's a whole nother show, and you really shouldn't, that's just a no-brainer. You don't need to be in that situation. But for the most part, it's just comments. And so the more you raise yourself, the more that they want now. And then you'll notice, if you pay attention, you'll notice that if they do make a jab that you take personally, and it starts to make you feel a little sad or a little bit like that really hurt my feelings, and that lowers your vibration. And then when they do that, when your vibration lowers, they'll back off, because they're more comfortable with your vibration being lower. The thing is people just don't know that that's what's making them do that. They're not aware that vibration, high vibration, is making them uncomfortable. They have to bring yours down in order to be more comfortable again. So that's what happens with friends, families, coworkers, is they feel that vibration shift. They feel yours high, their negative vibration amplifies. They have to make themselves comfortable again. They don't necessarily, and this is the weird thing, they don't necessarily do it to attack you. They don't necessarily do it to just be very, very mean all the time, although you may think they do. But what they're doing is they're just trying to make themselves comfortable again. They're trying to make them feel so bad again, and you tend to amplify that feeling. So if they can bring you down, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make themselves feel more balanced, feel not shot of whack.
Right. And especially because there's so many people on this spiritual journey and this transformation and shifting their lives, that I believe it makes people in their inner circle uncomfortable, because they see that this person has changed, right? And so...
But see, that's the thing. It makes them very uncomfortable, but the thing is, and for anybody who might be in the situation you just said, where they're the old friends, really pay attention to the reason you feel uncomfortable is not necessarily because this person's changed, but because, again, it amplifies the feelings inside your own soul, inside your own chest and body, that makes you feel insignificant, not very happy, anything that's a negative feeling, it will amplify that, and you just want it to stop. And then it makes you upset that this other person seems to be moving forward, and now you're just feeling worse.
And what about the people, like, label them the old friends, who are just, they think maybe that they're just comfortable in that own mindset of nothing good is out there, that whole negative mindset. Or do you believe that there's just people that are just, they have been this way for so long, they're just comfortable in this mindset? Or do you think that they too
absolutely
would like to change?
I don't think people stay in that mindset because it's working for them. I don't think 70% of the world stays there because they enjoy the negativity. I think that 70% of the world stays there because they're comfortable with it, period. And because it's very scary for people to try another way. And the other thing is if only one of your friends is on a positive journey and 80 of your friends are not, and you're in the middle, you're number 9 somewhere, people tend to want to not go against the crowd because they care too much about what other people think. And so they want to go with the crowd. They don't want to go against it.
Yes, that's huge.
Yeah, huge. And it's huge with even the positive thing. Oh, they don't know what this is, just a new wave. This is just a new thought, new agey type of thing. They just don't know. And so they tend to go with a group where they like to group together. They like to get that energy they feed off each other with that. And so if you really, when you get on a new spiritual positive journey, you really need to be prepared to do it alone. And it's not alone like lonely journey. It's one of the most amazing journeys you'll ever go on. But what you need to do is you need to be okay and prepared for nobody else to want to take the journey with you. So you have to experience all these little joys and these amazing things on your own, and really just really want your own happiness in your own life to change more than you care what everybody else is doing in their life. And that's not that you don't care about them, but they also have individual choices, and you need to understand that you have no control over that.
But that's, I understand that, and I understand what you're saying about that. And it is, you have to, like you said, either put yourself in the bubble, or how I say, I have a shield, like literally a shield for that negativity. But it is that personal choice, that personal journey. But there is that support out there. There's so much support for when you're feeling that loneliness, or you feel like you're all alone in your transformation, in your spiritual awakening. There's so much guidance and support. Just you have to take action. You have to step out.
It's amazing. There's groups. There's Facebook groups. There's people like what you guys do with your gratitude gardens. They're all over the place. You just got to look, and they will fall into your life as you move forward, because that's the way this works. And we do have a caller, but I do want to get to a couple other things before that's been waiting for a bit. But I want to get to a couple other things before we get to the phone. So in the instance that you're either going to work and you're surrounded by negative people, or you're married to somebody who is very negative, or there's family who's in your life who is very negative, what do you do about those situations? Because that's what really trips people up. Because friends, you can kind of shed old friends and old relationships. And basically, just so that we cover that area, what happens, again, is what you said, when they start to see you as different, because that's what will happen. They'll all of a sudden put it on you, as in you've changed, you're not the same, they get kind of angry about it, like you've sort of left them behind, or things aren't the same, or they're not right. And what's really happened is you just shifted vibrations. So unless you want to go back to your own pattern and shift yourself down to their vibration again, or down to your old vibration, then you have to just be okay with sort of letting that go. But what you really can do also, is you can find common ground with these people. So, for instance, old friends and family members, and many of those people. What you can do is I've told people this before, and I'll tell them again. I've never run into anybody that I couldn't find a common ground with. So you always usually know these old people, these old relationships, friends, family, whatever, well enough to know there's something that they love and enjoy. And so whether it be like gardening, whether it be race cars, whether it be golf, there's something that gets them excited. And so when you get in a situation where you're around those people and it feels uncomfortable, or you don't have really much to talk about and you've drifted apart, all you have to do is the best trick in the world is bring up whatever it is that you know their highest interest is in, and just say, what do you know about that lately? Have you been doing anything with this? I heard XYZ about, this race car driver, or what's happening. Have you gone to an event lately? The minute that you do that, you will feel their whole vibration shift, and they will shift out of that negative, usually out of the negative, but they'll shift into wanting to talk to you about it. You sidetrack them. You sort of trick them a little bit into sidetracking into something that they love to talk about, which is actually better, because you want those people to get in touch with that side of themselves, the part they get excited about, the part that they love to talk about, because it shifts their whole being, and then it makes it more comfortable for everybody. So it's very easy for you to find a common ground. And if you're at work, or other places, the other thing you can do is you can sidetrack them by giving them a compliment. And by a compliment, especially if you're at work, by a compliment, I mean something that you're genuine about. Don't just make up, but something that you can always find something, or I've never had trouble finding, even in some of the most negative people, I've never had trouble finding something that they really are good at, or really did well. Whether it be, they were good with animals, or whether they were just very organized people, and you can always give them a compliment and say, hey, you did a really nice job on that today. I noticed. I don't know if anybody else noticed, but you do good at that. It really tends to drop people's guard down. It raises their vibration. Then they're coming up to you instead of you going down to them. And so you can change the subject, find a common ground, something that you're very interested in or they're interested in, and you can give them a compliment. Now, and one of the last things I want to get to is, let's say none of that stuff is working. Absolutely. You're on your own journey. You've bubbled yourself, and you don't take things personally anymore, which I actually want to talk a little bit more about after we do the call, but you're not taking things personally anymore. You've learned not to do that. You're kind of on your own journey, moving forward, and you're really drifting apart from everybody, and you're noticing that they're just still weighing at you. They're still just badgering you with negative thoughts or negative comments, and you just don't know what to do. That is really a point in your life where you're going to have to decide whether to keep the relationship or shed it completely. And it sucks. It's sad. It's not necessarily something people want to hear, but this will pertain to, whether you're keeping in your life family and friends. And that doesn't mean, you're always going to be related to the family, but you don't always have to talk to them. You can kind of, put them not in your circle as much. The other thing is relationships, marriages, and in just where long-term relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend. That's why a lot of people get divorced, is eventually they may just go separate ways, and as far as they don't match anymore, their vibration doesn't match anymore. And you may have to decide at that point in your life, do I want this marriage I'm going to use a marriage, for example. Do I want this marriage more for me? Am I more attached to helping this person? Because a lot of people stay in these marriages because they say, I'm afraid of what's going to happen with this person if I leave, which is really kind of nice if you think about it, but a little ridiculous if you're trying to find your own happiness. Because what you're saying is, I will sacrifice my happiness to try to help this person who won't help themselves, but it will make me feel better to know that I wasn't happy and they weren't crushed because I left. Like, I'm going to throw my happiness on the railroad tracks and sacrifice that part of me. That's going to make me a better person because I know that that person's going to be okay then. Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They tend to really sacrifice their happiness for relationships. I don't understand that very much, but I don't think that people look at it that way. I think that they look at it as a noble type thing, or they've been with these people. But, you know, when it comes to kids and you have a relationship or your marriage or whatever, and there's children involved, those children are very, very, people have asked me, well, I have kids. Those children are so affected if you sacrifice your happiness for a marriage. They know it affects their own marriages when they get older. It shapes their life in a way that they probably wished it wouldn't have been shaped into. What I do tell people is if it gets to a point where you feel like your happiness is more important, those children will not view you as selfish 99.9% of the time, because they already know you're very unhappy. But what you can do for your children is show them that it's okay to move yourself out of a situation that is not healthy for your soul, and that you can still thrive and be a good ex-wife, ex-husband. You can be a good person. You can be a good parent, and you can be an example to show them, if they ever get in that situation themselves, that you can thrive and make good choices for yourself and still be a wonderful person. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So you can be a good example. Let's take this call that we have on the line here. We have an area code 323. Aloha.
Hello, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. This is Camille calling you from California.
Hi, Camille. What can we help you with?
Well, I can relate to everything that you are saying. I moved from Los Angeles to Alameda, California 5 years ago. So I made a major move from Southern to Northern California. And it was something that I had in mind to move somewhere, and I waited until Spirit led me to this place. And I made the switch very easily. However, boy, did it upset so many people along the way. I had people literally showing up on my doorstep as I was moving, trying to tell me what a horrible thing that I was doing, how it was inconveniencing them.
Yes.
It just got so ridiculous. Yeah. And I got up here. I let all that go. I got up here, and then as soon as I got here, it's been 5 years now, but there have been significant things that I've experienced over the past 5 years where people, now that I've been here, it's, who are you? What are you doing here? And at worst, it's been, well, get out of town. At best, it's been change. You make me uncomfortable. This is how you have to change in order to be here, or change to be my friend. I'm over 30. Come on, I can't do that, and I won't do it. But boy,
so
yeah,
it's
just got
you're
so
saying
ridiculous.
when you made the move that the people where you moved to weren't better? Is that what you're saying?
Not all people. Some of the people. Some of the people gave me hell as well. And I've also noticed that those same people have left.
Yeah, see, that's a good point that you make. That I like that you called and brought up this point. This is really great, because what happens is you need to always remember that you're making these changes for you and for happiness. So it's okay for whoever to have a reaction to that. It doesn't matter. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you will notice that it doesn't matter if you move from LA to Northern California or from Midwest to Hawaii, where I'm at. It doesn't matter where you move. There is 70% of the population are very much struggling with their own happiness and their own positivity, right? And so you're probably going to run into people like that wherever you go. But what's key, another thing that you said was, they will eventually fall out of your life as long as you don't keep engaging those people. you'll just notice that they disappear, or they move, or they switch jobs, or something happens where you just don't see them anymore, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So
and that, I learned that the hard way, too.
Well, and, you know, it is a learning process, but people become very uncomfortable with other people's choices, and I find that very interesting. Actually, when me and Debbie have talked about this before, but when we moved from the Midwest to Hawaii, you would think that we had just personally had made a mission to upset a lot of our families. I mean, they really took it hard, and then they went into the many different reasons of why we shouldn't do it: the economy, the state income tax, it's not better out there.
Oh boy!
You know, it was, and it's been 5-6 years, and there's still some very hard feelings about us moving out here. But, you know, we don't take it personally because that's their own stuff, and what we're doing is working for us really well. And, you know, they have to figure out their own stuff. So what I do with those people when I go back to the Midwest is I sidetrack them with things that I'm doing or that they're doing in their life, and I get them talking about stuff that they enjoy, and it really deflates the conversation to where it's just not so heated, you know? And so they eventually will come around, but it's a really easy way. One of my favorite things is just get them talking about something that they enjoy, or just sidetrack them for a minute and keep them on that subject. Keep them talking about themselves. Keep them talking about what's going on in their life. And if you keep them talking, it keeps it off of you, and they start internally not being able to push that onto you. They're searching for feelings inside their own self while they're right there talking to you. And so it becomes a very good sidetracking thing.
Okay, yeah, I have noticed that as well. Like, let's say you go to any place where people gather, and for me, I live in a very relatively safe, it's an island, really. It's a relatively safe place, especially for a woman going out alone. I know I felt comfortable going out and taking myself for a dinner or a drink or something. And I learned where people are very insecure and very negative, especially over alcohol. And oftentimes I found where if I took myself out to do that, some people looked at me like, well, who are you? How dare you treat yourself to this food or this drink or whatever it is?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Where you got to get to a point in your life where it doesn't even really matter. It's like what in my own experiences, I just allow that to whatever it is for those people, and I figure it really doesn't bother me. It really doesn't, because they're in a different place than I'm at, and they can judge me all they want to. I mean, for God's sake, I'm psychic. That freaks out everybody. So, I just get to a point where their opinion of me doesn't hold very much weight. Where as long as I know that I'm doing the best job I can to live my life and be on my journey and help other people, and I'm not intentionally hurting anybody, they don't know well enough to make that judgment. So if they want to do that, and that's actually that is a very good telltale of what that person is like. And I just allow them to be that way because, who am I to change who they are either? But thank you for calling in. And did you have, that was basically, you didn't have another question?
Let's see. Well, yeah, is it a reading show or is it
no, we were just talking about the negativity stuff. And the last thing that I do want to leave you with, though, is you don't necessarily have to view your move as a permanent move, because I feel like that you actually probably move out of that area. So it might be more of a temporary stop for you, and by temporary, it could be like 5-10 years temporary, but I feel like you're not there forever, so. That would be by choice of your own. Okay?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not, I've just had a baby 6.5 months ago, so I'm not thinking about going anywhere.
No. I feel like it'll be years. but it just feels like more of a temporary learning experience for you. But thank you for calling in. We have another caller on the line, so you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Tennille. Thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, we have another caller, area code 832.
Oh, I was just listening. I'm trying to learn about the negativity.
You're just listening. Okay. Well, but now that we've actually pulled you onto the air, by no choice of your own, since you are trying to learn about this, have you had experiences with, are you on the beginning part of your journey where you're trying to be more in a positive direction, or have you gotten further in, and what's your experience with negative people?
Well, I'm pretty new into the journey of just being aware of my thinking and staying positive. Negative people, it seems like I can deal with negativity in the general population. It's family that's the hardest to deal with.
It is the hardest. It is the hardest. And so this is a really great call to actually discuss. You know, one of the things that I think is the hardest for me personally to deal with, and I'll let Debbie go ahead and give her opinion as well, and we'll just discuss this a minute with you, is I find it hard to watch some of my family members who I know could really better their life, and they really have more to them, but they make choices that don't match what I see their potential is. And so I tend to want to bring them up and tend to want to help them live a better life, but that doesn't work. And then after a while, you sort of get frustrated with some of the family members can be consistently negative or seeing not a good outlook in life, or at you if you're doing things that they don't like, being opinionated about what you do, being very judgmental about what you do. And so the way that I have learned to handle that over the years, because I do have, as all do, I don't think anybody, or if you don't, you're very lucky, have very opinionated people in their life that are family members who think that they know best for you and think that they know what you should be doing. And what I've done and what I suggest people do is really to cut your time limit with them. Like if you're on the phone or if you're at a Thanksgiving dinner or something, it's really great if you're at Thanksgiving dinner or something, because then you can just be like, hey, I need to go, grab a drink, or I need to check on so-and-so or do something. And then you can kind of like slip out and then somebody will, and then just not come back to that area. If you're on the phone with them, you can really do something that works really well, or worked really well for me, is you can just basically cut them a little bit short and just be like, I'd love to talk to you longer, but I'm right in the middle of something, so we'll talk later. Don't say you're going to call them back and then don't call them back, because that's, not very good. But what you do is you consciously limit your time, and you have to understand that some of those people, when they're when they're family members, they can have such a strong negative effect on your body. It's not just on your psyche. You can hang up the phone or leave their house and really not feel well physically, because they've really been so hard on you. And I've been in that situation before in my life, and I've really just had to cut those people out of my life, even though they were family members. And I just to where you very lightly talk to them in passing if you need to, but I really took a stand with not calling them back if I needed to or whatever, because those were extreme situations. But limit your time with the family members that do that. Allow them to have their opinion and express it if they need to. Don't engage in the conversation back. So if they say, if they're like parents saying, well, I can't believe you're doing that, aren't you afraid of this or that or whatever, don't continue the conversation on. Just be like, yeah, I understand, and just allow it to dissipate. Because if you try to defend yourself to any family members that are being judgmental and talking at you that way, what happens is that then you're feeding the fire, so to speak. It takes two people energetically to be moving back and forth in conversation to really, get an argument or an opinion thing going on, and you don't add into the negativity. You just allow them to have it and just go, okay, or that's all right, or, you're entitled to that. That's fine. You just really don't defend yourself to those people because you're not going to win. There's no winning when somebody has a very strong judgment of what you're doing. Debbie, what opinion do you have on that subject?
Well, I know when I first started my spiritual journey, it can feel uncomfortable to your family members, to siblings, parents, or husband, or whoever that you're close with, because they see this change in you. And especially like if there's a sibling that you're close with that is very much into their own religion or their own way of thinking, that they feel like because you are now not thinking the same way they are, this becomes a little bit challenging, and it becomes a little judgmental. They could be a little judgmental toward you, and then you in turn feel like you're being attacked, and it definitely affects you. And so what I've learned to do, if when that came up in the past, I would go back to what Jen said in the very beginning: find common ground. It's all spiritual. It's all, we call it whatever you want. It's all the same. But what I had found was that I would not judge them and honor their own beliefs that they had for their own selves. And in my own quiet way, I would just send them love. That's what I would do. That made me feel good. I don't need to tell them. I don't need to say anything, and just continue on what feels right in my own heart, and continue on doing what I feel is right for myself. And like you said too, sometimes it can definitely change a relationship. It can change when you
yeah. Times. Do you have an example, without saying any names, any type of situation you'd like to discuss with us, or?
Sure.
Okay.
It's more of a nonverbal negativity, specifically that comes from like my mom and my sister, that kind of thing.
Right.
They don't even have to verbalize it. I could just feel it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a whole thing. So how do you protect yourself from that to move yourself forward? Because I'm stuck with them in my family, but I don't deal with them all the time. But whenever I do, it's difficult.
Well, a couple of different things is that you can shift your perspective about them, because mom and sister are really alike. Your mom and your sister are very much a lot the same type of personality. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so
yeah.
One of the things that you can do when you go into a situation like that is you can actually do this thing that I call bubble yourself, which is not just letting things roll off your back, but energetically you can actually do a small meditation where you sit in a chair, and you can do this for 2 minutes or 20 minutes. It only takes 2 minutes, and a 2-minute bubble is better than no bubble. And so what you do is, for you, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked. You have a sensitivity level. You're kind of empathic. I don't know if you know what that means, but that's why you can feel the way that they're reacting to you. Does this make sense? Do you know anything about being an empath?
Only very little. I know whenever I walk into a room or I see, I just get glimpses of certain things, just feeling.
Okay. Well, and so 2 things I want to tell you before I go into this bubble thing with you is, and this is another good thing to bring up, is because a lot of people who are really interested in the show of what to do if I'm surrounded by negative people, a lot of these people are empaths and do not know they are, because otherwise it wouldn't bother them. For them to walk into a room and for these people not to verbally say anything to you, sister and mom, a lot of people who are not empaths wouldn't know that, because they'd have to verbally say something. So here's the thing. 2 things for you is I'm actually doing a small blog on signs of being an empath, just a really tiny thing on my inspirationalexaminer.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so make sure you go to my Hawaii Healings website, or my inspirational examiner and put your email in, because it'll come out next week. And so it'll be something you're probably interested in reading, because I think you should learn more about this that will actually help you. And then 2, the book that I'm actually writing right now, it's called Intuition and Psychic Ability, your Spiritual GPS. I'm very proud of this book. It's probably going to be one of the best books I've ever written so far. This will be coming out in the next month or so, and it's going to have a ton of information, a ton of exercises and things that you can do to explain this to you so you understand what's happening, number 1, and then tell you how to make it so it doesn't bother you, number 2. And so make sure that if you do put your email in, you'll find out when that's coming out as well. But one of the techniques for this is what I call bubble yourself. And so you sit in a chair, you take a couple minutes, and you relax your body like you were going to do a meditation. But what you do is you envision a white light coming in from, I don't care if it's God, Source, the Holy Spirit, whoever you believe in. You imagine a white light energy coming through your ceiling or your car, because if you forget about it and you're sitting in your car, you can do it in your car. And imagine it coming down through the top of your head. And as this white light comes down through the top of your head, you feel it fill your body completely with this white light energy. And what this is a positive, powerful, protective energy. And as the white light comes through your body, you imagine it as your body gets filled up with the energy, you imagine it like burst into a bubble almost around your body, and allow that white light to continue to come in until that bubble around your body is completely filled full of this white light. And after that, your white light energy, what that does is energetically protects your energy system when you're an empath. And so then when you walk into a room, then after you fill your bubble, you're good to go. This bubble will bounce off or keep out most negative energy or that type of feeling you get from your system. And so when you walk into a room with sister or mother or whatever, it does 2 things. It keeps their own negative energy a little bit at bay, but it keeps them from, those type of people will draw energy from you. They're called energetic vampires, which is another article I'm going to be doing coming up. And they don't purposely do this, but they don't understand what they're doing. If people have a low vibration, they draw energy off of other people. And so they're attracted to those people with higher vibrations so they can pull that energy into their own system because they're not reproducing it themselves. So when you're around mom or sister, you may experience when you leave where you just feel drained or something. Do you ever have that happen where you're just feeling more tired? Okay, that's because your vibration's higher, and so they're drawing that energy from you. And again, they don't do it on purpose. It's something they do unknowingly, but you want to protect yourself from that because you'll become very exhausted, and that's when physically, when you leave, you can have physical symptoms of shakiness or wanting to take a nap, very drained. And so make sure that you bubble yourself. And again, make sure that you get this book that's coming out. It's going to be like $2.99 ebook. It's going to be awesome, and you are going to get a lot of good information on that. And plus, watch for that blog coming out. Because as an empath, you do have to deal with people differently. And I'm so glad that you brought this up, or that you called, and that we made you talk on the air with without you wanting to. Because I think that there's a lot of empaths out there and they don't know how to deal with that, and there's not enough information out there. For me, in particular, I actually, and I'm okay to talk about this on the air, but I don't have the best relationship with my mother. I've had to cut her out of my life. Actually, it was a choice that I had made, but the verbally abusive and all that good stuff. But what had happened to me when I was younger was it was so extreme when I'd be around her that no matter what, she would not have to say anything, but mostly she would. But it physically, as an empath, and I am a very strong empath, it would start to make me nauseous. I mean, like every time I would leave or talk to her, to the point of where I felt like I was going to throw up. And if anybody knows me, I think I've thrown up like 3 times in the past 20 years. Like I don't throw up ever. So for that to have that extreme of an impact on me, I knew that I had to basically sort of kind of cut her out of my life to keep my health stronger, to keep myself from not feeling that way. Your situation is not like that, but just for anybody else who may be listening, who may be in an extreme situation like that. And I'm okay with that. other people are not okay with that. They're very, very not okay with that. They judge me. They want to know why why I would do that and all these different things. And I really just let them have their opinion because they don't really know what went on my whole entire life. And that's just a choice I needed to make. And I didn't do it out of anger either. You don't do it out of anger when you're not trying to be around these people. You do it out of just really wanting to not feel that way when you're around them. You do it out of just wanting to protect yourself, So bubble yourself when you're around them. Understand that I don't feel that they're going to change in the future either. I just feel that it's something you're going to have to learn to adapt with. But as you learn more about an empath, I think that you will learn a lot of things of how to deal with not just these people but other people.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about that while we're on that subject?
No, I think that I need to do some research, and then I'll have better questions to ask.
FYI on the empath stuff, that usually will happen when you're around anybody. You can always tell if they're feeling one way or another. So practice that for a while, just so that you get the idea of what I'm telling you, and do it every time you go into a large place with a lot of people. Because if you go into like Walmart or the mall or just different places where there's a lot of people, you always want to bubble yourself, and you'll start noticing that you'll feel a lot better. And the more that you do that, the more that your energetic strength will be stronger when you're around mom and sister and stuff, and then you won't always have to do it when you're around them. For instance, for me, I had to do it all the time when I was around people until about 10 years ago. And then about 10 years ago, my energetic system got so strong and I was so aware of it that I only have to do it now if I go do an event where I'm doing like readings for 9 hours or something. So there's not a ton written on it. That's why I want you to go ahead and research it as much as you can. You can email me if you need to learn more, if you want to learn more. But I've written a whole chapter on it on this new book coming out that it's just going to have a lot of information for you, okay?
Wonderful. It makes perfect sense why I can't go into big crowds. I've noticed as I've gotten a little older, it's hard for me to go into Walmart or places like that where there's a lot of people, and I'm out feeling all bad, and I'm like, I have to go home and take a nap, and that makes perfect sense now.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying there's not a lot of written on it, and so people in the section, actually I was writing on this chapter yesterday, so it's very ironic, right, that you called. So anyways, people will either know immediately, just like you did, and be like, aha, that makes total sense. But for anybody else who's listening on the air or, listening to the radio show, it's not going to be, oh, that kind of sounds like me, or I've had that happen. You'll know right away. You'll be like, yes, finally, that makes total sense to why I do that. And the reason that you do that when you go into Walmart or any of those places is because you can feel everybody's emotions. What an empath is it's a psychic sense. And what that means is that your body mimics other people's emotions. And so, by the way, this can be one of the most confusing, absolutely, hands down confusing psychic senses that there are. And the reason for that is because what happens in a normal person is your mind has a thought. And this thought in your perception, coupled with your perception, creates an emotion that's in your body. And so if you're an empath, what happens is you have an emotional reaction in your physical body with no thought attached to it. So your mind starts going, well, why is my body reacting this way? Why is it upset? Why is it sad? Why is it anxious when there's no thought that coincided with it? So it gets confused. And when it's confused, it then tries to make sense of it, so it starts making up stuff, right? And so once you're more aware of that, and what happens is that your body mimics somebody else's emotions. When you walk into any place like Walmart or go to a school play or whatever, as you're walking by all of these people, you're flooded with all these emotions that are going on. It's like you've opened floodgates to just all kinds of happiness, sadness, upset, excited, anxious, all these people that you're walking by, that's everywhere. And so your body begins to really get overwhelmed, and so you begin to start feeling anxious, shaky, like you can't breathe very well sometimes. Like a lot of people who have anxiety disorders actually are empaths. Not all of them, just for anybody who's listening, you should always get diagnosed, but a lot of them are because they get overwhelmed by all the feelings. And then once you leave, you're fine, or you're very drained and need to take a nap. You're very tired. And that's the other thing is all those low vibration people, they naturally just pull off you. Even if you're walking by in Walmart, they'll pull off you. And so that's just what happens as an empath. And so one of the things that I explain in my book, just so that you know what's about to be coming out, is let's just say that one of the best ways that you can manage being an empath is awareness, period. Once you understand that you're an empath, once you're aware of what that is and know that you have it, then you can begin to protect yourself, and then you can begin to differentiate your own feelings from somebody else's. And so, like, next time you walk into a room with your mother or, like, anybody else that maybe you just met or you're at work and you feel a certain way, you're going to know immediately, oh, that's not me, it's them. And so that it really helps with the confusion. And so how I tell people this is like it, too, is if you don't know you're an empath, let's imagine that there's a hurricane coming and you don't know it's coming, and you know it comes, the weather comes, the rain comes, you don't do anything to take preparation, and it comes for several days, knocks out windows, rain comes in your house, you have no supplies, power's out, and you know that you have to weather the storm, it goes away, and you're still several days without power and water, and you still have to get through it. Emotionally and physically, that would be very draining because you're having to deal with all this stuff. You weren't prepared. You didn't know what just happened. It hit you and blindsided you, etc. Now, if you know you're an empath, you can do something very different. Before you go into Walmart, before you see people, you can bubble yourself. You have a certain preparation that you do. And so what that's similar to is if you know the hurricane's coming, you board up your windows, you get proper supplies, you do all of the things that you need to do when the electricity is out, food, whatever. And so the hurricane hits, none of the rain comes in, windows are okay, everything's good, you have candles, whatever. The hurricane leaves, the electricity's out, you still have proper supplies, so you've still weathered the same storm, only you've put a protection barrier up and made sure that you weathered the storm properly. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Thanks.
And so a lot of that will be in my up-and-coming book, and it will actually explain to you. One of the things is the bubble, but I will go through the whole entire thing. I will talk about energetic vampires and all of that. So definitely check that out because it will change everything for you. Once you get it and understand it, it changes a lot.
Wonderful. Thanks. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I'm glad we forced you to be on the air, and well, and be prepared for that. Hey, we're going to take one last caller. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay, we have another caller from 951.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I was just listening to your call, and I was thinking, oh, my goodness, I wonder if that's what I was experiencing. I was in a relationship a couple of years ago, and I don't know, I feel like this gentleman towards the end of the relationship that he just was draining me, absolutely draining me to the point where I just had to walk away from the relationship. And when I did, it was like, it was such a relief. I felt like I was being smothered.
Right.
Do you think that's what was going on? It didn't start off initially that way in the beginning of the relationship, but somewhere in the middle of it, it just was so much energy to deal with this person. It was just sucking the life out of me.
Well, and that, I think the reason, just to explain to you what I see happening in that particular relationship, too, was that you started out more of a similar vibration. And so somewhere along the line in your relationship, you know, you began to, your vibration still raised a little, but he really went lower. His vibration really began to tank. And so as his vibration started, as he started being unhappy and things started happening in his life that were not good for him, he felt, and he started being more depressed or more sad, that's when his vibration began to lower, and that's when he really began to suck the life out of you. Yeah. And so absolutely that's what happened. And you may be very interested in learning about that stuff as well with that up-and-coming book. And again, that's what is called an energetic vampire, which I will be writing an article on shortly and giving more people information. And when they're aware of that, it makes more sense to their head. And why that helps them is then because then in the future when they're around people like that, they can understand what's happening and kind of try to get themselves out of the situation. But you sound like you made a good choice and really did what you needed to do and to keep that from continuing to happen. Because one of the things people don't realize is the more that they pull from you, the more that they drain you, it actually has a physical effect on your system, you know?
Right, and that's what happened because it wasn't right away. I stayed in it for a while, and I just started having problems, going to the doctor back and forth. There was always something wrong with me.
Yes.
And I was like, I think you're weighing on my health. And he was like, I'm not weighing on your health. I'm like, really? You're just really beginning not to be healthy for me.
Right.
I don't know what's going on.
That's exactly what happens. Exactly what happens. Debbie, have you had that happen?
Never. No, I'm kidding. Yes. And the only thing that you can do, like you did, caller, is you removed yourself completely from the situation. That's wonderful that you did that. And then you need to find ways to recharge yourself. And so you took care of step one. That was huge. And then to recharge yourself, you can just fill yourself back up, your joy level, your positivity by doing things that you love. Also by something we didn't even talk about on this call yet is going outside and just getting back in touch with nature. That's a natural way to recharge yourself.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. I released that relationship. Wonderful. I started working on myself. Everything was about me. I got my health together. I started exercising, eating healthy. It was just a 10-degree turn. I can't even tell you guys how different I felt, what a relief it was when I let go of that relationship. I just realized, wow, I didn't realize how bad it was until I was out of it and
most
different
people don't realize how bad it is while they're in it. But what I love about your call is that you actually took action to change it when most people are too afraid to do that. So you really need to give yourself a pat on the back for that because it
wasn't easy. I definitely went backwards and forwards, but the gift that I got at the end of the day, and I tell that to any of my friends I know that's struggling with back and forth with relationships. I said, all I can tell you is I wish I would have done it sooner. I said, but I know when you're in the midst of it, it's hard to make that decision.
It's absolutely hard, and that's
on the other side. Yes, you don't know what's going to happen on the other side.
It's good that you mentioned that because people just assume that everybody else it was easier for you to make that choice. It was easier for you to move to Hawaii. It was easier for you to leave that relationship, whatever. But these aren't easy things that we do. We just do them because we have a feeling or know that just seems to be a better choice for us at the time. So you did it. Good job. And thank you for calling in. Our time is up. So make sure that you go to my website if you're interested in that book as well, the hawaiihealings.com, and make sure that you enter your email address. So you'll get a new email on that. All right?
I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody. Make sure that you go to Debbie's website if you're interested in her gratitude garden, which will be coming up soon, right? Isn't that soon?
Yeah, we're starting another one in San Diego. So that's exciting news. ilovebloomies.com.
Yes, on the ilovebloomies.com. Make sure you go friend her on Facebook and Twitter. I know that she does a lot of Twitter and Facebook both, which is weird because I did an actual poll on Facebook. Do you guys use Twitter? And they're like, no, we use Facebook. And then I did it on Twitter, and they're like, no, we use Twitter. So it's like they're not by Facebook, Twitter. They're one or the other.
Right.
Definitely add her on Facebook and Twitter because you will be able to keep up with her gratitude garden and all the I Love Bloomies stuff. And I know she has some new things that are going to be coming up in the future that you want to know about. Go to hawaiihealings.com or Hawaii Healings with an S, or inspirationalexaminer.com and enter your email address if you want to learn more about my up-and-coming book, as well as the other ones that I have out there, or if you want some individual readings. So thank you for joining us today, and we will be back next Wednesday. Aloha.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, it is Ryan Seacrest. There's something so thrilling about playing Chumba Casino. Maybe it's the simple reminder that with a little luck, anything is possible. ChumbaCasino.com has hundreds of social casino-style games to choose from with new game releases each week. Play for free anytime, anywhere for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Top reasons your career wants you to move to Ohio. So many amazing growth opportunities, high-paying jobs in technology, advanced manufacturing, engineering, life sciences, and more. You'll soar to new heights, just like the Wright brothers, John Glenn, even Neil Armstrong. Their careers all took off in Ohio, and yours can too. A job that can take you further, and a place you can't wait to come home to. Have it all in the heart of it all. Launch your search at callohiohome.com.